What are you doing? What are you doing? Get off my car. This is not your car. Okay, so quick change of plans. I am not going to go through with strut tower for now. Not because I can't do it, but because I don't think I have enough time and kind of stuck for time constraints. So the new action plan is as follows. Here we go. Instead of removing this, because I realized, and here's where I came to this realization, removing this, now that I got it up there actually, removing the shock tower from in here is not as easy as it looks. I'm probably gonna have to remove the whole rear subframe. And then I got looking as well, and it's cracked not only here, but up through here, on like the whole like wheel well area, which is not fun. And then it continues on. It actually goes right here. So here's where the shock is. It goes across, and it follows and cracks into here. This from factory is supposed to be just glued together, so I'm not overly surprised that it is cracked. And then I got looking even further. I realized I had some rust here, and this is not that good. Rust in here. The whole side skirt is rusted as well. So, you know, it's not the worst rust I've ever seen on this chassis, and it's, of course, in Saskatchewan, it's not the worst rust I've ever seen ever. But it is kind of annoying. So we're gonna do a quick fix, and it's not gonna be for street use. It's gonna be for track use. And we're gonna make it as strong as possible, probably stronger than it was at factory. And here's how we're gonna do it. I'm gonna remove the rear coilover, the one on the left side, the one that's damaged. After I remove the coilover, I'm going to hammer this whole area down. And by doing that, I'm gonna hammer this in, and that's gonna help me lower this down a bit. And then hammer this whole shock tower down as much as we can. After it's hammered into place and kind of where I want it, basically I'm gonna do a simple measurement from that one to this one to make sure it's ideally perfect. I think it's 30 degrees is how these things said. I can't really remember. After that's finished, what I'm gonna do is grind down as much of the area as I possibly can. Once it's grinded down, I'm gonna take a piece of sheet metal and we're gonna wrap it around here and tack it on each place, and then do a full weld job on it as best I can on that sheet metal to the existing shock tower mount that we have on there right now. So Alright, I got the coilover out. Wow, is it ever dirty. And I'm gonna actually clean that up while it's out of the vehicle. And then now we got more access to everything that's in here. So we can tell, you know, it's moved, you know, I think it's moved this way about 3 centimeters or something along those lines. So, and it's moved up a bit for sure. You can tell based on where it ripped here. So we're gonna have to basically hammer it in and push it back. I'm hoping I should be able to get it moved quite a bit, because I do have, you know, about 3 centimeter moved. 1/4 inch, I guess, would be a better measurement for it. So we'll put those on the coilover so we don't lose them, and get hammering. So we got most of this area grinded down. There's still a little bit of rust, so I'm just gonna hit it a little bit more of that. And then this crack up here, just gonna do probably around the area as best I can, so I can basically put like a piece of metal from here to here and just tack it on. And then same with this part, just to kind of bring them back together so they don't separate any further than they are. I tried hammering it down pretty good. I also tried using a toe strap, ratchet strap, sorry, and attached it in here and then basically brought it out and strapped it, and it didn't move much at all. So I gotta figure out how I want to get this moved. Prying doesn't work. I mean, it's all still pretty sturdy on the frame there, so it's more or less just, it's when you're putting stress on it in a corner, it's moving up and down. Like, it's got like as much wiggle as this does freely without coilover in it. So and wow, I never realized how bad these brakes really were, so I'm happy. Oh, spider, get lost, get out of here, get. What are you doing? What are you doing? Get off my car. This is not your car. Get out of here. Yeah, so I'm gonna replace the brakes, but get this stuff kind of ground down as best I can. And I'll see you guys in a bit. Today, well, actually yesterday, it's continue on from today, but you're gonna see the videos kind of all up in the air like that. But basically, I did extra stuff and I didn't record it because I didn't realize I was going to continue working on the car yesterday. So I'll kind of show you what we did and the new plan that continues to change because I can't make up my mind. So I started tinkering with the engine yesterday and started to basically try and figure out all the issues I was having with it to make sure it runs as best I can, because I don't want to have any issues, because that's one thing I always have when I go to the racetrack or the oval. It's kind of a course. Is I always have an issue. The car never works the whole time, and I've maybe got accumulated like 7 or 10 laps. Alright, so here's kind of what I ended up doing. I pulled apart the upper intake manifold on the 240. Basically just kind of pulls up. There's a couple bolts on it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something along those lines. Pulled off the intercooler pipe, and this allowed me access to get down to my coolant temp sensor. I know you can reach it from the front. However, I wanted to find out what else was going on with it and if there was any issues in this kind of part of the engine here. Fuel rail looks fine, everything along those lines. But the one thing I was having issues with was the coolant temp sensor. And like I said, I accidentally put the Skyline one in. Turns out it wasn't the wrong coolant temp sensor, and I did not strip the threads. Luckily, a package came in yesterday I'm super stoked about, and in the package was 2 sets of rear pads. I bought an extra one, they're like $7, so I just bought 2 just in case I can have another one. So we're gonna do rear pads today. We're gonna do these new rotors. Actually, these were $8 a rotor, and they look great. I think they'll be pretty good rotors. I'm pretty stoked with that. So there's 2 sets of those, and a brand new S14 coolant temp sensor. Which I'm also super stoked with, because this fits the plug perfectly and it should work, and it will fix all the issues I was having with the engine. So boom, boom, boom. You know, we're gonna actually be able to do skids because we got those. I'm gonna actually be able to have proper coolant, which is great. Another thing I secretly did was I blocked off the stock S14 boost solenoid. Basically all you do is you just block it off. I use a piece of what are those called? A bolt. And I put in a Pro Sport manual boost controller, which I hope works. So basically I just put it from the wastegate to the cold pipe. Usually they're on the hot pipe, but I don't know why my setup's on the cold pipe. Regardless, this is on here and this will be awesome. So, and I mean, I just pulled off the hot pipe just because it was in my way. Now, other thing I'm gonna do with the engine today is the spark plugs. I'm gonna replace those, and then I'm also gonna put on my Spitfire cold packs out of my S13, which are right here. So a Spitfire cold pack system, very simple, very straightforward. It just plugs and plays, and it'll help run a little cooler, I'm hoping. Another thing you're gonna notice as I walk by the car is there's a weird red side skirt on there. I have another S13. It's a hatchback, and I realized that the side skirts would fit. So I'm tracking this thing, and I really like fancy track cars, like stuff that's like outrageous. So I'm just tossing on these ridiculously wide, like, I don't know what you call them, hot boy style side skirts or something like that. And we're gonna leave the rear bumper on. So I'll do front side skirts and the bumper that's in the rafters there. I'm gonna take off the pig nose one and replace it with that one, and it'll kind of flow, it'll have more flow, is I prepped up all of this. I completely ground down all of the areas that need patching. So what I'm gonna do is actually cut out some of the rust if there is any, and then put a patch over them just for now. It'll hold better than it was, well, way better because it cracked. And I did the same on the inside. So I'm just gonna double patch both sides of it. That'll hold it perfectly fine, and it'll work. So I think I'm going to start calling this series the Rusty Coupe. It just doesn't end with rust. With 240s, it's very hard to get, well, with factory brake system, not the 300 or whatever else brakes you want to put on it. But with 240s, it's hard to get out these bolts because you don't have much room to wiggle. Like, you can't really use the open end, you can't really use much on the bolts itself. So basically, it's all just 2mm Peter back and forth unless you would have aftermarket stuff in here, but I mean that's not the case with a factory 240. Basically this is how hard they are to get out. Usually you can wiggle it out with your fingers, but the amount of corrosion on these bolts is insane, and I'm thinking every bolt in this car is gonna be like this. So the Rusty 240, I kind of want to make this series into something a little bit more than what I'm doing currently. Right now I'm just kind of fixing up for drift wars, but eventually I think I want to remove the whole rear subframe from this guy. I want to do all the restoration on it, get it all fixed up, because I mean, even in the door, like, look at this, it just doesn't end. The rest of this thing is terrible. You know, floorboards aren't bad, which is nice, and the frame actually is pretty good all along until the pinch welds, the front of the car, and it's always rusty there from where I'm from. But if you guys are looking at this, you're probably looking at where you live, and this is a 240 that would stay in a junkyard. But I mean, where I'm from, this is an average 240, and it's not all that bad. So even just doing the brakes is a task in its own, which is kind of funny because you usually don't run into this. Usually a brake is something you just, you know, loosen off a bolt and boom, you're good to go. But when it's a 5-minute per bolt kind of thing, it's a little annoying. It takes a 15-minute brake job into, you know, probably a half an hour, which is kind of a little annoying. But on the plus side, it's gonna get done, and the car's gonna get a lot better. So every step I take is gonna be quite a bit of fun. So check out those pads. Look at them. There's nothing left. Oh, the rotor on the back side, not too bad. The rotor on the front side shrugs. And I've never seen this before. Rust inside of the dust shield. Now that's a new one to me. So yeah, it looks like that front pad was pretty bad. The back pad wasn't as bad as the front one. It's right here. So get it out. There we go. And then, I mean, if you compare that to a new pad, here's a new pad, how it's supposed to look. And that's the old one. So there's no actual pad left at all. This whole part here is gone, so that would have been why. And this one was on the last leg of its life too. Typical ass chunky. Oh well. So I finally got the new brakes on. I struggled so hard getting the pads on this thing. I don't know what it is. I'm working on a lot of Subarus lately, and Nissan 240SX, you did a crap job on your rear brakes. They are a pain in the ass to deal with. And then you can't even get your wrench on there. I don't understand. Like, it's just frustrating. I'm a little frustrated, that's all. So I'm happy it's done. So they're in. They look awesome. There's the one on this side, and then the other side, of course, looks the exact same, but I'll show you anyways. So there they are. I also painted all of this in here and in the trunk as well, just with some sort of wrinkle paint. It looks kind of the same as like an undercoat. It's the only thing I had in my garage, so it worked.